Recently, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey officially proclaimed September 28th as Good Neighbor Day in the Commonwealth. And so far, there are 20 different locations throughout Massachusetts that have signed up to participate. And there's still more time to do so. Joining me in the studio to talk about National Good Neighbor Day is Innessa Manning. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
So first off, what is Good Neighbor Day?
Yeah, so Good Neighbor Day is actually a national day that's designated on the calendar. It's every September 28th. It was actually originally designated by President Jimmy Carter in the 1970s, in 1978 to be exact,
right.
To really foster a connection among neighbors, to promote being a good neighbor. And that's really what it's all about. It's about trying to encourage people to take one day out of their schedule and really focus on what it means to be a good neighbor with one another. And then here in Massachusetts, it's, as you mentioned, the governor has proclaimed September 28th as Massachusetts Good Neighbor Day. And we are really trying to make this more than just a one-day event. So to really have September 28th be, yes, Good Neighbor Day, encourage communities to come together to figure out activities and events that they can do to try to foster deeper community bonds, but really to keep that going, to continue to build connection. Because as the U.S. Surgeon General has issued an advisory last year in 2023, that the country is really experiencing a loneliness pandemic. And there's really harmful health impacts to being lonely and experiencing social isolation. One of the very startling metrics is that the negative health impact of loneliness can be as bad for a person as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So it really is harmful. And an organization called the Massachusetts Coalition to Build Community and End Loneliness came together around this topic and trying to end loneliness within the Commonwealth. And they have really been the driving force behind taking Good Neighbor Day, which is this national holiday, and celebrating it here in Massachusetts and using it as a day for people to come together.
And have you seen, I mean, is this the first year for Massachusetts to be doing this?
This is the first year for Massachusetts to be doing this in this manner. So in previous years, the coalition has held listening conversations and summits to discuss the harmful impacts of loneliness and social isolation. But with the issuance of the Surgeon General's report, the coalition really decided, let's encourage communities to come together and take action. So it's really important to know the research, continue with the research, share best practices, all that's really important, but it's also equally important for people to step forward and try to build those social bonds.
Basically, to meet your neighbor.
To meet your neighbor, yes, to meet your neighbor that you might not know that well.
Right. What kind of activities are involved? I mean, you could kind of do anything. I mean, are they public? Are they private? Are they?
Yep.
I mean, what do they entail?
Yep. It's a wide range. So we've been out there promoting Good Neighbor Day in Massachusetts, encouraging communities to come together, but encouraging communities to create events and activities that feel right for them. So what communities have come up with, it's been really creative. So we have Northampton, who is doing a scavenger hunt where people can sign up in groups, or they can sign up alone and be matched with somebody else and get to know somebody new, and then go around Northampton looking for points of interest. We have Framingham, who is hosting a joiner fair outside their city hall, where they will have organizations and groups talk about what they're doing and try to encourage Framingham residents to join them, so to build social bonds by joining in that manner. And then, yes, we have some individuals that are holding private events in their homes for the neighbors that are on their block. So I would just really say that there's still time. September 28th is we still have some days ahead. So if your community is not holding an event, or you're not planning on attending one yet, but you're interested in this idea, you can kind of look 2 houses to your left and 2 houses to your right, or 2 apartments to your left and 2 to your right, depending on where you live, and invite your neighbors over to get to know them a little better.
It's as simple as that. It's just going next door and saying, hi, do you want to hang out for a few hours?
That's really where it all begins, yes.
In terms of the activities themselves, as you said, some are private, but there's also a virtual one too. There's some virtual ones that would people from anywhere in Massachusetts be able to join that, or is that more so for the specific towns that they're from?
Some of them, yes. So we have a website, endlonelinessma.com, and on that website we have a page dedicated to Good Neighbor Day, and we have a map with a downloadable list of what events are occurring. So some are in person, and there are a few events that are virtual as well. Boston, for example, is going to be doing something over social media that it won't be closed off to other people, but that will be a virtual event, and there's one or two other ones also.
I guess, you mentioned earlier that this started back in 1978 on the national level.
Yes.
Has the country seen obviously it's been a progression of more loneliness? I mean, I'm assuming COVID really played a major factor in enhancing the number of people who are lonely.
Yes. Well, so surprisingly, the high rates of loneliness and social isolation that people report really predates COVID. So we were seeing that even before COVID started. So the coalition, which began as a task force, actually launched in 2019. So pre-pandemic. But I think what the pandemic did is really identify for everybody how painful it can feel to be lonely, to experience social isolation. So while the pandemic, is over and we've sort of moved past that, and many people have been able to resume their former social activities, there are a lot of people out there that haven't for a whole range of reasons. And so we really feel that it's important that we can't leave them behind. We now know how painful that is to experience loneliness in that manner, and we really feel like it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we're not leaving anybody behind in that kind of pain.
And people can obviously still sign up now to participate or hold their own event.
For
so
Good
how
Neighbor
can
Day.
someone, you mentioned your website.
Yes. So they can go to endlonelinessma.com, and we have a page there that is dedicated to Good Neighbor Day. We have a toolkit that people can access to help them in planning an event. It kind of gives some ideas of different events that they could hold. We also have a form that they can report to us events that they might be hosting, so we can help them spread awareness and support those activities. And then we have this map of the activities that we know of that are taking place around the state. So it's really not too late. I mean, some events take a little bit more pre-planning than others, but some, maybe just inviting your neighbors from down the street to come over and have a cup of coffee or play a game of cards, that doesn't require too much setup. So we would highly encourage anybody who's out there who's interested in helping form those connections and really interested in helping with this movement to re-knit the fabric of our society, to go ahead and do that. Don't feel like it's that you have to do anything big and complicated. Even the smaller steps count.
Because you always can help at least one person along the way.
Exactly, and if you help one, then maybe you help another, maybe they help another. So there's a snowball effect.
Well, hopefully this day is a success. Obviously 20 so far have signed up, so perhaps you'll get a little bit more, a lot more. And as word spreads in terms of this event, hopefully you're predicting that next year will be a little bit more. Yeah,
this is, again, as you said, this is the first year that we're celebrating Good Neighbor Day in this manner to really encourage communities to take action. So I think like anything, it takes a little bit to get some traction. And then we're also not seeing this as sort of a singular day. We're seeing this as a way to start a movement, start a conversation, raise awareness around really how loneliness and social isolation can harm your health. And by reaching out to others is sort of how you can improve that and how you can improve things for other people as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Innessa. I appreciate you coming by and telling us a little bit about this stuff.
Thank you so much for having me.
And Newt News will be right back.